Good morning, welcome to another reading vlog. This kind of next week I'm going to be focusing on reading longer fantasies. If you watched my last reading vlog, you know my life has kind of been a mess lately. Work's been taking up way too much of my brain power. And this is also the week I want to try and get my shit back together. I'm not sure how reading really long fantasies is going to help with that. But look, like all my decisions can't be good decisions, so I'm just going to make some bad decisions, I guess. Anyway, the two books that I'm going to be focusing on reading. Firstly, I've got Eye of the World on my TBR for this month, and I want to just try and blast through it in the next month. So far, I started it, and I'm like 45 pages through. So that's not as far as I would have liked to have gotten. It is a little bit slow in the reading, but I am enjoying it. So I've heard a lot about this series, but I also don't really know about it. It seems to be set in this world where there's like a cycle, the Wheel of Time, and it's almost like a prophecy that eventually these evil people will appear and they have like different roles that they play in, I guess, the end of the world. And it seems like those events are beginning. However, primarily we're following a young boy who lives out in the middle of nowhere, because a lot of fantasies like to start with young boys who live out on a farm. So we're following Rand and his best friend Matt and some of the other kids in the village. Also, Moraine, I think her name is, turned up. She seems to be a powerful sorceress, I'll use that word. It seems like the women are the ones in this world with magical powers, and I've heard other people say that too. I've heard people talk about Moraine, so I'm looking forward to learning more about her. Basically, at the moment, it's still just set up. These kind of books have quite a lot of setup normally. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this book was set up for the bigger series. But it's well written. I'm just following along with the characters, and it's kind of relaxing, which is maybe what I need at the moment. So maybe it isn't completely a bad decision to read this week. The other book that I want to read is like the opposite of relaxing, and that is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. So this is the second book in the Gentleman Bastards series. I've got the audiobook for this, and I think it's like a 25-hour audiobook, so quite a long one. And for a little while I was doubting, like maybe I should have found the audiobook of Eye of the World. Did I call it Wheel of Time the whole time? I was talking about it just before. Anyway, I thought maybe, since I've heard that's quite slow, the audiobook might help me get through it, and that I'm kind of expecting Red Seas Under Red Skies to be quite complicated, just because it's about this guy named Locke Lamora and his band of fellow criminals and the different schemes they get up to, and it's quite complex, and I thought maybe it would be easier to follow the details in the book. However, I did listen to like 15 minutes of Red Seas Under Red Skies, and I think actually I have made the right choice, because with slower audiobooks sometimes like it's easy to get through them, but also it's easier to drift off and stop paying attention. But the audiobook of Red Seas Under Red Skies, for the 15 minutes that I listened to it, I was actually in a situation where I could have been easily distracted, but something about the pacing was really pulling me in and keeping my attention. So I think that's a good sign. Also, I really shouldn't have started Red Seas Under Red Skies yet, because I am still trying to finish off Upright Woman Wanted by Sarah Gailey. So Sarah Gailey is an author that I am hoping will become a new favorite of mine. This is just a really short, like 3-hour audiobook. So like the opposite of the other books I'm reading this week. And we're following this girl who has had some bad things happen to her, and she kind of believes that it's because of who she is that she is kind of destined to always have bad things happen to her and to the people around her. And so she's run off to join the librarians in the hope that the librarians will be able to reform her and make her into a good person. So the librarians in this world, it's kind of like a Western fantasy world, and the librarians travel around distributing approved material, and their image is that they're the pinnacle of like good morals and upstanding citizens. However, when she joins these librarians, she discovers that maybe they weren't everything she expected. I am enjoying it, as I was hoping, and so I should be able to finish that. I think I've only got like an hour to listen to, so I should definitely be able to finish that off today. Hello, so I am about to go out and enjoy the sunshine, which I feel like is exactly what I need, but I thought I'd give you a quick update because I finished Upright Woman Wanted, And I did really like it. I do think it's kind of simple, and there wasn't really that much to the plot, which is kind of what you'd expect from an audiobook that's only a few hours long. It was a really interesting world, and I really liked the characters, but I really would love some more of this world and these characters and their story. I do think if you want a story that kind of addresses this idea that a lot of LGBTQ media is all about tragedies and the whole bury your gays trope, I think if you want something that opposes that, then this is probably quite good for that, and it kind of addresses that concept. I feel like my face is really uneven, and I think that maybe I need to fix my makeup. Or my face has gone crooked. Anyway, that's a distraction, but I did really like Upright Woman Wanted. I think it's really well written, which is exactly what I expect from Sarah Gailey at this point, having read 2 things. I've got another one on my TBR this month, so we will see whether they manage to become an absolute favourite. Fingers crossed. Hello, so once again, there are not enough hours on Sunday. It's nearly the end of the day, but I think I'm ready for the week. This week at least I'm working from home on Wednesday, so I get a bit of a break in the middle of the week, even though I do still have to go into the office 4 days. So hopefully I can keep on top of life and keep on top of reading. So let me tell you about my reading. I think about 6 hours into The Lies of Locke Lamora, so it's not The Lies of Locke Lamora, it is Red Seas Under Red Skies, the second book. So I'm about 6 hours in, which I think is just over 20%, and I'm remembering the good parts of The Lies of Locke Lamora. It's a lot of fun. It is very clever, although I feel like it's also very confident in its own cleverness, like it's very impressed with itself, which kind of annoys me a little bit, but it's still just kind of fun. So basically it seems like they are trying to break into the vault of this casino, and being Locke and John, they have decided to do some very convoluted plan in order to do it, because basically it's this vault that's impossible to break into. As well, like the first book, we are following things in 2 timelines, but I can't remember exactly, but I feel like the first book, each chapter would be broken up into parts which would alternate between timelines, whereas this one I think just every chapter is alternating. It's a little bit hard with the audiobook to keep the structure in your head as clearly as it is with a physical book. And I almost get a little bit annoyed with it swapping back and forth between the timelines. Like, I don't think it's as linked as well as the first book is. I think when you switch back and forth between timelines, it works best when you're learning something from one that's then changing your understanding of what's just happened in the other timeline. And so the timelines are like feeding off each other, and they maybe are a little bit, but not as strongly as I think it needs to be for that to work. Instead, I'm just getting a little bit annoyed because I just get into one timeline and then we switch to the other timeline, and I just get back into that and then we're back on the other timeline, and I kind of just want to stick with their story for a while. But I can sort of see how the 2 storylines are starting to interweave with each other, and I am interested in how they're going to break into this casino vault. I will say though, again, like the first book, I was a bit frustrated in the beginning because I felt like they were just trying to do this big con and steal all this money, but there was no real purpose to it. And again, it doesn't really seem like there's any purpose to this heist that they're trying to pull off. But the first book, about halfway through, things changed and there became a clear purpose to what was going on. So at the moment I'm just enjoying the fun, and I'm trusting that eventually it will get some purpose and I will become more engaged in the story. So we'll see how that goes. As well, this one, I didn't read that much last night. I think I'm only up to like page 70, which is not very far given this is like 800 pages long and I want to read it this week. But maybe I'm still kind of on track. Maybe not, I'm not sure. But pretty much in this so far, we just met a bunch of characters and then some creatures have turned up, and I think that's kind of going to be the catalyst which leads to Rand leaving his little village. I'm suspecting maybe his friend Matt will go with him, purely because I've heard Wheel of Time fans talk about Matt before, but maybe he won't, maybe he'll have his own adventure. But I am excited to have them leave this small town. I will admit there was a couple of pages where it was just telling us about what was going on at the farm and the farm work he was doing and how terrible the winter had been and all the effects that it had on the farm. And while I understand that it was setting the scene, Also, I just don't care that much about farming. So I understand what people were talking about when they said it was slow, but it's an older epic fantasy, so I'm being patient with it. And I understand why it's including that, so it's okay. But I'm hoping, given these creatures that have turned up, that when I sit down to read this tonight before bed, that it will get even more exciting. So I've got a couple more things to do before I can go to bed, and then I'm going to have a bath and try to get to bed early. I'm looking at the time. I'm not sure we've got enough time, but I'm gonna try. Hi, so let's do a quick working from home lunch break update on my reading. The last couple of days I've been in the office, which is fine. I'm a little bit annoyed because yesterday my boss was talking about having my troublesome team have to do 2 days in the office. My other team already does 2 days in the office, so if they don't pick the same days, which I feel like they're not going to, I could end up having to be in the office 4 days a week as like the norm. And I'm not ready to go back to that kind of normal. I really just lately have not been enjoying being in the office that much. Like, I don't mind it 2 or 3 days a week, but 4 kind of destroys me. I don't have the stamina for it. I have to work out where to get that energy. But regardless, I have managed to fit some reading in the last couple of days. So I think I'm about a third of the way through Red Seas Under Red Skies. Where am I up to? So I've read 9.5 hours of 25.5 hours. So like past a third of the way, not halfway yet. And I'm kind of enjoying it. It is a lot of fun. It's very convoluted, and now not only are we trying to do this heist on a casino, we've also decided to become pirates, or they're kind of being forced into becoming pirates as well. It's all kind of ridiculous and very over the top, and I think the only reason it's working for me is because the first book has kind of given me an expectation that in the end all this convolutedness will come together to some kind of meaningful event. Because I think in the first book I was a little bit annoyed all the time. It was just all this trying to con people out of money, and I didn't feel like it was a very meaningful goal or one that I cared about. But based on the first book, I believe that the second book is going to come together, and so I'm just enjoying spending time with Locke and Jean as things go terribly wrong for them all the time as they try to pull off these very overcomplicated schemes. I'm not sure how much I'll read today while I'm at home, but hopefully I will be able to read some more the next couple of days when I'm back to commuting. As well, I have been reading Eye of the World. And I think I'm like up to page 175, so nearly a quarter of the way through. Where are we at so far? I don't remember where I was at last time I talked to you. I don't remember. But basically, events have transpired that lead to our main character Rand and some of his friends having to go off into the world on this adventure with this essentially a sorceress and like a ranger type character. It kind of feels like quite related to Lord of the Rings, and that, you know, these people who kind of expected they would always stay in their small town off on an adventure with a few different people. So they've got the sorceress, the ranger, and like a bard kind of character. So they're off on this adventure. They're being chased by some monsters. They've also got this girl decided to go with them, and part of me dislikes her, but I think it's just because the main character has some problems with her and didn't really want her to come on this adventure. But another part of me is like, if this book was written from her perspective, maybe that would even be more interesting. And I mean, it's written in third person, but we're kind of following along with Rand's perspective. I would kind of expect that at some point we get other characters' perspectives based on everything I've heard other people say. But I guess we'll see. As well, reading this, I was thinking a lot about Brandon Sanderson. I haven't gotten far through this, but I feel like the bigger concept has a lot of similarities with the Stormlight Archives. Like, not how the magic works, but this idea that there's this repeating conflict that happens in the world. And it's also kind of the same setup in the graphic novel Dark One that I just read by Brandon Sanderson. So it's interesting to see that that part of Brandon Sanderson's work is perhaps not as original as I might have thought previously. I think it's fine because I still really appreciate Brandon Sanderson's like magic systems and all of that, and that's the stuff that I'm more impressed with in his writing, and like his plot twists and how he builds those up. But still, interesting to read, I guess, what was some of his inspiration for the way that he writes things. I do think I'm a little bit behind where I wanted to be on this, and I want to read it today, but since I'm at home, I'm like trying to catch up on a million things, not just reading, and I feel like I'm going to run out of time. I don't know what to do about the fact that I never seem to have enough time. I need to fix it, but like, there's just not enough time and too many things to do. Anyway, I better go back to work, so I'll catch you guys later. Good morning. So I am having a very slow start to the weekend. It's already past midday on Saturday. But the last couple of days of work were just a lot and I needed to recover. I was just letting myself read in the sun and then that turned into a nap in the sun, which was nice, but I do have quite a few other things I wanted to do today, and Jace is coming around later, and like it's sunny, so I should be enjoying the sun, but anyway, I'm trying to relax today. I don't know that I'm doing very well. Let's tell you about the books I've been reading. So, Red Seas Under Red Skies. How far through am I? 16 hours of 25. So I think that's like 60% or something. We're still being pirates. In fact, it's all kind of transitioned into a pirate novel now rather than a casino heist novel. That's okay. I don't mind it. I live in Auckland, the city of sails. So even though my family isn't actually rich enough or fancy enough to have a sailing boat, I guess because we have the America's Cup here all the time, somehow I still know a lot about sailing. They were explaining at one point about how sailboats have to go sideways to go forwards, and I was like, doesn't everybody know this? But then maybe people who don't live anywhere near the ocean and have nothing to do with sailing don't even know that. So that's weird. Anyway, I am still enjoying it. One thing I will say, I was watching a video recently where someone was talking about the lives of Locke Lamora, or the Gentleman Bastard series, and they were talking about what a great friendship Locke and John have. And I feel like after I heard that, and I've heard a lot of people say it before, but after I heard that and it reminded me of that, I kind of noticed how often the author really like reminds you, these guys are really great friends, don't forget. And like, I feel like they are good friends, but also, do you have to keep telling us? Anyway, I don't know when I'm gonna read this more. Technically, I could be productive and like do some house tidying and listen to it, but is my brain up to that? Can I be bothered doing any housework? I don't know. So maybe I won't finish this till next week. We'll see what happens. I strongly suspect I'm not going to finish this one till next week because I'm only on page 234. I tried to read a little bit every night before bed, but some nights I just didn't get much read. And everybody who warned me that this was slow, yes it is. And it's not that I'm not enjoying it, but I think just because I've had so much other stuff going on, it's the kind of book where you have to tell yourself to read it. It's not like I'm like, oh, I need to know what's happening or what's going to happen next. Because at the moment, like, they're still just slowly traveling to this place that they're going. And they've stopped in a big city. And there's a few different things going on with like some weird dreams. And this girl who can like kind of, I don't know, she has some kind of psychic powers. And she's telling them what she can see about them. And there's these children of the light who they think if they know who they are, they will suspect them of certain things and go after them. So there's like things happening, but it's slow, and so it's just taking its time. Not a bad thing, but it does mean it's going to take my time to get through this. I am going to try to read some more of this weekend, but as I said, it's already halfway through the day and I've got to do some other things this weekend. So I'll try and find some more time for reading. Really? Part of me wants to say that I shouldn't have had a nap. I should have read instead. However, I needed the nap, so too bad. And right now I'm going to go and have some lunch and try to be productive and sort my life out. And then maybe I'll do some more reading. We'll see how time decides to pass, I guess. Hello, so the whole weekend disappeared because I was feeling like crap, dying of being a girl, and so now it's Monday night, and not only did I have an annoying day of work, but now my computer won't start. I've put this post-it note so that I can see if the progress bar continues, but I don't think it's going to. Also, please ignore that my screen is not very good quality, but I mean, who cares if the computer won't even start? I was going to try and edit a video tonight. In fact, I was halfway through it, but it was kind of glitching, and I thought maybe if I restart it, it will work better. No, it will not. So I guess I'm not doing videos at the moment. If I can't fix it, I don't know what I'm going to do with this that I'm filming. Anyway, whatever, I guess. Reading wise, I caught the bus to work today, which was quite an adventure. I haven't caught the bus in like well over 2 years, but I think it was okay and I might continue doing it. It's cheaper, possibly very slightly faster, involves more walking, which is good for my health. And I think when I'm on the bus, I can focus more on my audiobook than when I'm driving and I have to like pay attention to the road and all that stuff. So I'm quite far through Red Seas Under Red Skies. Let me check how far. You can tell I mainly just came to complain about my computer to you guys. So I've read 19 hours of the 25 and a half. So I'm getting there. What I am really liking is the cats. There is kind of this belief by the different pirates, or I think like any sailors believe in this world, that you have to have a cat on your ship or otherwise it's bad luck. So I'm really hoping the cats, or at least one cat, is gonna last beyond this particular book. But basically we're just still mucking around with the pirates. I don't know. I kind of want to get back to the casino heist. What is happening with that? I don't know. But I am enjoying it. It's kind of fun, but very slow. The other thing that I'm reading is Wheel of Time, Eye of the World. So Eye of the World, actually what happened last night is our group of characters that we're following got separated, which is super exciting because then we got perspectives of characters other than just Rand. I was just starting to get to the point with this book where I was like, is this going to be one of these books where all the women clearly have very interesting stories and we only get to hear from the boring boys? But no, we finally got the woman's perspective and some of the other boys' perspectives, but just like a broader perspective, which is cool, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. And I feel like maybe having different perspectives might help with like speeding up the pace. I haven't really read enough yet to know whether that's true, but hopefully. Also, given that my computer's not working, I was about to say that given that my computer's not working, that I'll probably go and read for the rest of the night and that it's 7:20, and then my camera just stopped filming, like there's some kind of disease that's spreading between all my digital devices, which I'm not a fan of, so we're gonna not do that. I don't know, maybe I accidentally pushed the button. That seems unlikely. I don't know, everything's breaking. I'm gonna go and read my physical book, which is like an analog thing and shouldn't be breakable. So maybe I can not break anything else tonight. Hello, so quick update because I am meant to be heading into the hospital for my regular infusion that I get for Crohn's disease. Why is my phone buzzing? Because I'm not at work and I'm missing meetings. So my infusion, basically I'm just sitting there for several hours doing nothing. I do, unfortunately, even though I've got the day off, still need to call in for one meeting. Hopefully it'll be shorter though, not a full hour. But I guess we'll see. I do have Wheel of Time with me, Eye of the World. So I'm going to try and read at least up to page 500, ideally more than that. I want to try and finish this weekend, but I don't know if that's achievable. But I guess I'm going to try to read as much as I can in my infusion. I'm usually pretty bad at focusing for some reason. Like I'm not good at like just sitting down and reading for an extended period of time, like multiple hours. But I'll see how far I can get through. I don't really remember when I last updated you. But I did have I think my absolute favorite scene of the whole book. Basically, one of the girls had been spending a bunch of time with this woman, and the boy was like, why were you always talking to her? And she said, well, she was giving me advice on how to be a woman. And he's like, we don't get advice on how to be a man. We just are a man. And she's like, oh, maybe that's why you do such a bad job of it. And it just cracked me up. It's like the end of a chapter. Just the best line. I loved it. But otherwise, they're all just kind of still traveling around, trying to get to the city. There has been some stuff with some wolves and some ravens that I quite liked. But other than that, it continues to just be very slow paced. We haven't really got much of the world or the magic expanded. But yeah, as I said, I'll try and read as much as I can this morning. Oh, the other thing was The Lies of Locke Lamora. Red Seas Under Red Skies is actually what I'm reading. I can't seem to keep that straight in my head. So I finished it. And I enjoyed it. I do think it was a lot of fun. I think in this particular one, like the characters were more fun. Or I think it's more just like it was a more fluid read, because last time the first book was trying so hard to be clever that sometimes it was a bit of a distraction. That said, the first book definitely was cleverer and it came together probably more satisfactory. There was a whole lot more going on. In this second one, there was a romance and It was a little bit insta-lovey, but it was okay. I was kind of on board with it, but I kind of knew how it was going to end right from the start, and I was right. So, yeah. And I don't really feel like this book changed the situation of Locke and Jean very much, like a little bit, but mostly we're still kind of in the same situation as we were at the end of the first book. Maybe a couple of small changes, but not really. I mean, I guess now they've got a pirate ship. It's a big change. And a cat. A cat is the thing that I'm the most happy about. But I did enjoy the audiobook. I thought the audiobook narration was really good. And so I'm going to continue the series in audiobook, I think, which is good because it's also easy to get through in audiobook form. Although I don't know if the fourth book has still even been published yet. So I guess we'll see. I really need to get going, so I will check in again later. Hello, so it's actually now Monday. The weekend just kind of got taken up with book fair things and I don't really know what else. Just disappeared. I didn't read as much of this as I was hoping during my infusion, partly because I got up to a bit where there was an animal death and it kind of, I could see it coming and I knew that I had to stop reading this or I was going to cry in the middle of my infusion and that's not ideal. So that slowed me down a bit and just I can never focus. But I did enjoy that bit. Enjoy it. I mean, it made me cry, but I liked that this was getting an emotional response from me. I feel like sometimes when you're really frustrated that a book is going really slow, what it's actually doing is getting you used to the characters, and then when things start happening to them, you get that emotional response, and so the payoff is worth it. I'm now up to, because I did manage to read a little bit on the weekend, so I'm up to page 618. Part of me wanted to try and finish this today. I was telling myself since I'm working from home today that I have maybe some time to do things around the edges of work, but every time I think that and then I just get focused on work and I forget about doing even the smallest things around the house. So I don't know, I've still got like 160-70 pages to go, possibly a bit too much for today, but I am liking it. Our characters are starting to come back together, or at least I suspect that's what's going to happen. 2 groups came back together, the 3rd group I think is going to join up. We also got our first taste of like royalty, and I have to say like the royalty stuff kind of reminded me of like Arthur and Camelot. A lot of the names seemed very Arthur and Camelot-y, whereas like in a lot of the rest of the book it almost seems Lord of the Rings, like Elven inspired, a lot of the names, but this part felt like Arthur and Camelot. I'll also say our character Matt, he kind of reminds me of like, is it Edmund or Eustace, or both of them at different parts in the series I think, but it's Edmund in the first book, right? Or Eustace. Wow, it's been a long time since I read Narnia. Anyway, the little shit that betrays them. Matt's kind of giving me little shit vibes. It makes me worry about him, but I am confident that he will have some kind of redemption arc. He hasn't really done anything wrong yet, but I feel like he's going to, and that worries me. Anyway, I guess I'll check back in when I have gotten closer to the end, or maybe I'll finish it. Okay, so it's currently the 21st of July. I can't believe that it's taken me 3 weeks to finish this book, and I'm not quite there yet, but I think I've only got about 50 pages to go, so I'm super close. I think I can do it today. I'm working from home today. It's my lunch break. I'm going to read a bit, and then I probably won't get through all of it in my lunch break, but I could finish it after work. So that's exciting. I read quite a bit yesterday. What I will say is that reading this has really given me a different perspective on some of Brandon Sanderson's stuff. So his graphic novel that he recently put out, that was all about kind of this world that's stuck in this never-ending cycle with the Dark One as the villain. Is that not the storyline in Wheel of Time? Isn't it? So it's kind of weird that like it's different, but he's clearly taken inspiration from this. And then as well, we just had in the bit that I read, like they went through this kind of other world, kind of like another dimension. And if you've read the Stormlight Archives, you know that in the Stormlight Archives, there's kind of also this other world that you can use in a very similar way to travel through the world without traveling through the world. And like, of course, Brandon Sanderson is still very creative and unique, but just seeing the similarities with the Wheel of Time has given me a different perspective of it a little bit. Not sure how I feel about it. But anyway, this, I really enjoyed that other world. It was really weird, but I liked it. And I got quite scared as we were traveling through it, worrying about the characters. But I feel like a lot of them I actually care about now. So well done for making me care about the characters. There was one bit just last night before I went to sleep where there's kind of this romance between two characters that I felt like came out of nowhere, because like, I thought those characters were not the same age at all. So now I'm a little bit confused and kind of like, whoa. But maybe I've misunderstood their ages. I'm not sure that I have. I'm not into it. I don't think I'm into it. Anyway, the rest of it I'm enjoying, and I'm gonna finish it very soon. Okay, so I have finally finished Eye of the World. I feel like it took me a really long time, but actually, this took me like 3 weeks to read, which since I have other books that I wanted to read this month, that's a long time. However, I told my work colleague today that I was almost finished this, and he was like, already? Because I told him when I started it, and I remembered that booktube reading speed is not normal reading speed, and so actually I've done pretty well at getting through this in 3 weeks. It's a big chunker, it's slow paced, and I do feel proud that I've done it, and I did enjoy it, and I am interested to see where it will go. However, like right at the end there's kind of like this reveal, and it was weird because I was like, oh, okay, I don't really know what that means. So it's like intriguing, but also just doesn't, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Not really. There's still so much about this world that I can see still needs to be revealed. And I was reading something just today about how this starts out more Lord of the Rings inspired, but becomes much more sci-fi, horror, as well as still being fantasy. So I'm interested to see what direction this series will go in. I don't know when I'll be able to get to the second book. I only got this one because Fate delivered it to me through my library free bin. And I have a lot of the later books in the series also found very cheap at a charity book sale, but I haven't seen the second book around. But I do feel like the series is one where I should have a good chance of finding it secondhand, because a lot of people will have owned this series over the years and then perhaps gotten rid of it, or maybe not, because maybe a lot of people would just keep it. Still, I'm glad to have made a start on this series, and I will definitely be continuing. And also glad that I finished off Red Seas Under Red Skies, and I'm definitely going to read the next book in that series very soon via audiobook. Although I think the fourth book is still not out. Anyway, let me know if you've read either of these series that I read in this video, and if you have, what book you're up to, whether you think I'm gonna like the direction it goes in after this first book. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.